Because when you build around Karl-Anthony Towns, we already seen what he can do as the best player on your team. He's going to give you really good numbers in the regular season, but when the playoffs come around, he's not going to be that same guy. He's not going to be the Karl-Anthony Towns that we see regularly in the regular season. Yo, welcome to the Hoop Objective with your boy Armani. Today we're going to get into the slow start that Minnesota has had and some of those offseason moves and the implications that they're having on them right now. So we ain't going to take too long to get this started. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to be real. I'm not going to give the Timberwolves any slack because I never liked any of the moves that they've ever made. I absolutely hated the Rudy Gobert trade when it happened. I know I wasn't posting at the time, so I wasn't able to really get into that. But the Rudy Gobert trade was a terrible trade, and I'm not sure why nobody had that same sentiment when it came to that. Minnesota ended up giving up 4 first-round picks, 5 valuable players, including Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Walker Kessler, and Jared Vanderbilt. So it's not like they gave away a small return. They gave away a package that you'll go trade for a superstar. You'll give that package up for someone like, let's say, AD or even Karl-Anthony Towns if you were some other team trying to trade for him. And I don't think Cat's a superstar, but he's better than Gobert. I'm not giving up that package if I don't feel like I'm going to compete for a championship. If I don't feel like that player that we're bringing in can help me compete for a championship. The Cat and Gobert duo also never made any sense. They tried to kind of replicate that Twin Tower thing that Cleveland got with Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, but it's a completely different dynamic because Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen are both really good defenders, and on top of that, they can, like, Evan Mobley is kind of like a Chris Bosh type utility player offensively where he can shoot a little bit and he can also play in the post, where Jarrett Allen is a lob threat. And even though Rudy Gobert is a lob threat, he's not a post player. He's not going to do some of those things that Jarrett Allen can do in the post. And Evan Mobley and Karl-Anthony Towns are two completely different guys, where even though I think Cat is a better player than Evan Mobley right now, Evan Mobley is a two-way guy where you can put him in the perimeter, you can put him in the interior, you can put him anywhere defensively while also getting, some of that versatile play from him offensively with the face-up game and the shooting, really. So Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley make sense offensively and defensively, where Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns, they may make sense somewhat offensively, even though they both are in the post. At least Karl-Anthony Towns, you could spread him out and he could shoot and spread the floor to where you're not clogging the paint. And Rudy Gobert, he can be that lob threat. But defensively, it makes absolutely zero sense. Neither of them are good perimeter defenders. And Karl-Anthony Towns is a good interior defender either, where Rudy Gobert is an amazing interior defender, generational interior defender. But at the same time, with the way the league is going today, if you put a small ball lineup with 5 guys who can shoot and who can put the ball on the floor, then what can the Timberwolves really do with the Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns lineup? It makes zero sense. I never got it. I never thought that was a way to try to contend. I always thought them getting a guard would have made way more sense when it comes to pairing up with Anthony Edwards and building around Anthony Edwards, which we're going to get into later in this video. But getting that package, or not even getting that package, giving away the package that you gave away for Rudy Gobert and still not being a contender never made sense to me. It makes absolutely zero sense. So on top of that offseason trade making zero sense, and not even just that trade, just the moves in general making zero sense, you're also not playing well as a team. Y'all are the 13th best team offensively, which is average, and the 22nd best team defensively, which honestly, the point of having Gobert is so you can be at least a top 10 defense and preferably a top 5 defense. So not only are you average offensively, but defensively you're underperforming, and that's literally the whole point of you going to get Gobert. And yes, it shouldn't be all on Gobert to make you a really good defensive team. But at the same time, when Gobert was in Utah, even though he didn't have good perimeter defenders, he was such a good defender that the Jazz were always one of the top teams defensively in the league. So you getting Gobert should have gave you kind of a similar result when you look at how Utah used him. So not only are you average offensively and bad defensively, but you're not winning. You guys have a 6-8 record, which at the time of this recording doesn't make you good. Which you can still bounce back from that. 6-8 is not the end of the world, but the Timberwolves don't really have a track record when it comes to their organization of being able to bounce back from tough starts. Let's be real. So this isn't something like the Warriors, where the Warriors are having a tough start and we're like, okay, they have the talent, they have the coaching, they have the organization to bounce back. This is not the same situation. The Timberwolves are completely different. You starting at 6-8 is not a good look. It doesn't look good for y'all. And when it comes to being a young team and trying to build a culture, y'all not even moving the ball. Y'all are the 20th best team in the league in terms of assists, which when it comes to assists, I don't believe that's the only metric of playmaking. That's not the only way we should measure playmaking or moving the ball. But it's a start, and y'all not looking good when it comes to that department. And if you watch Minnesota, you can visually see that they're really not moving the ball. They don't look comfortable together. The coaching doesn't look like they can get them to play at their best potential as a team, not individually. Anthony Edwards is still playing pretty good as an individual. Karl-Anthony Towns is playing okay as an individual when it comes to his standards, but that's not what we're looking at when it comes to y'all. We're looking at the team dynamic, and y'all look terrible as a team. Minnesota looks terrible as a team, and I'm not saying they look terrible in terms of they're the worst team in the league when it comes to talent. I'm saying they look terrible in terms of they don't look like they can play with each other. They don't, even though I know they just got together and they still have to build that chemistry, but it doesn't look like they can play together as of yet. So hopefully we can see them kind of develop into that. And I want to say something that most people aren't really paying attention to. And it's that D'Angelo Russell is literally providing zero value to Minnesota in their contending aspects. And when you look at how he's playing, especially statistically, he's been extremely inefficient, averaging about 41, 33, and 74 when it comes to his shooting splits, which is absolutely abysmal for a guard that you're featuring him in the starting lineup. He doesn't look good in that department. He's also not doing anything well in any department. So when you look at scoring, when you look at shooting, when you look at playmaking, when you look at defense, even though he's never been a good defender, he's not doing anything right. It feels like he hasn't been doing his role, correctly in terms of at least getting some of your players involved, getting some of your teammates involved, and giving you at least 18 to 20 points per game and efficient scoring. So what is he on the court for? What is he doing for you? He doesn't do anything defensively. He doesn't do anything offensively. He's not really a leader. That's why you're getting Gobert instead of going and trade for a feature guard to put alongside Anthony Edwards. Didn't make any sense, because it's like you really need an upgrade in that department. When it comes to the guard position and how important it is in today's game, you have to go and find you a guard that you can put next to Anthony Edwards and depend on a night-to-night basis. And it's a dire situation in terms of D'Angelo Russell. When it comes to Rudy Gobert, it's like you still might need some time to get adjusted to him, even though I believe it's a terrible fit. D'Angelo Russell is a little bit more of a dire situation because he's been with you long enough that you should be able to depend on him by now, and you still can't depend on D'Angelo Russell. And I'm not talking about injury because he's been there, but you can't depend on him when he's there. He's not a good starting guard, and honestly, even bringing him off the bench is iffy because when he comes into the game, what is he going to provide you? He's not providing you score. He's not providing you efficient scoring. He's not providing you playmaking. He's not providing you defense. So you have to figure out that situation when it comes to D'Angelo Russell, and you have to go find you another guard. You have to go find you a feature guard that you could depend on and put next to Anthony Edwards and have them at least, be able to go forward with the team together. So now we're going to get into a hot take. And this hot take isn't popular. I already know some might agree, but most aren't. And when it comes to the Timberwolves and how they, went along with their offseason, instead of getting rid of all of your draft capital and getting rid of all of those valuable young players and going to go get Gobert and not contending, what you should have did was you should have traded Cat and got more assets and more young players to where who's in the same timeline as Anthony Edwards, so you can build with him. You can make him your franchise player in the face of your franchise, and you could build alongside Anthony Edwards. Because when you build around Karl-Anthony Towns, we've already seen what he can do as the best player on your team. He's going to give you really good numbers in the regular season, but when the playoffs come around, he's not going to be that same guy. He's not going to be the Karl-Anthony Towns that we see regularly in the regular season. And you getting Gobert also isn't a good thing for Anthony Edwards, because we've seen in many press conferences that he had this year, where is he going to go? It's two guys in the paint. Anthony Edwards is more of a slashing type guy, and when you put two bigs in the paint, you don't get the best out of Anthony Edwards, who is, in my opinion, your best player. So, it didn't make sense to go get Gobert and get rid of more draft assets and more young players when you have Anthony Edwards, who's 21, 22. You got to build around that guy. What are you building around Cat for? You're also not ready to contend. So you not being ready to contend, even if you get Gobert, it will make better sense to go trade Karl-Anthony Towns, which we know who he is already. Trade Karl-Anthony Towns while his value is at its highest, and go get guys that will fit with Anthony Edwards, and go get more draft assets. Because if you were to get more draft assets, now you have more picks to go get a guy that you can put next to Anthony Edwards as his co-star. And I don't think Karl-Anthony Towns can be that co-star. I don't think Rudy Gobert is that co-star. I don't think D'Angelo Russell is that co-star. I think they should have maximized their chances of going to find Anthony Edwards, another co-star that is in the same timeline as him or is in a similar timeline as him. And when you look at the Celtics, for example, with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, that is a really good dynamic, and that's a really good situation for the Celtics to be in going into the future, because they're in the same timeline, they're in the same type of age range, and they're also both really good co-stars that you literally seen last year. They made the finals with those two. So instead of going to get Gobert and you didn't ruin it, but you didn't fulfill Anthony Edwards' potential because you didn't get guys that can fit with him. You didn't get guys that can build with him. You didn't get guys that can grow with him. You would have been better off trading Cat and getting guys that you can build with Anthony Edwards rather than getting Gobert. And even though you're trying to be a contender, we can clearly see that that's not going to make you a contender. But yeah, man, the Timberwolves, in my opinion, they're making mistake after mistake. I'm not sure why people weren't getting on them when that trade was made, and we see the results of it, man. It's not looking good so far. But yeah, that's it for me. I'm done talking about Minnesota. I don't think most people really care for Minnesota, but me, I watch every team, man. I watch every player. I like seeing what some of these teams are trying to do in terms of, getting better and, getting rid of that stigma of not being a good team or vice versa. But yeah, man, this is Armani. This is it for today, and I'm out. Peace.